My name's Aine Armstrong. You did it very well. I'm a born and bred Josie girl, but like most people in this room and in this country, there's a bit of diversity of culture, and hence my name. It's Irish. My historical heritage is Irish. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be able to say a few words to you guys today. I know it's right before lunch and everyone's starving, so it won't be long. The topic of culture is one that's very close to my heart. I hope the next few minutes my colleagues and I can spark a bit of an interesting debate with you guys. I also wanted to thank the organizers of this event. I can only imagine how much it takes to prepare something like this and to make it flow so seamlessly, so thank you. So the topic today, culture as an enabler of high performance. I think the question here is culture the secret sauce for performance? Let's start with the basics. What do we mean by culture? I think culture, very simply, it's what makes us us. It's our values, it's our habits, it's the way we work together. It's kind of the vibe or the feeling that you get when you come to work in the morning, or even when you hop on a Zoom or a Teams call. It's more of a feeling than a knowing. I think when we apply it to performance, it's not, yes, it's hitting our targets, but it's not just that. It's going above and beyond. It's crushing our targets. So what is it about culture that takes us from doing our job to putting in that extra effort? Come home. And I mean, my nerves were going mad, so that went down a level. I felt a bit of warmth. He then said, okay, well, this is where you're going to park from now on. Then I walked into reception, and the receptionist, who I'd actually met a few times from the whole interview process, said, hi, we've been waiting for you. Then I walked into the HR team, and everybody was there to welcome me. And I was actually quite blown away. But I'm a bit of an untrusting soul sometimes. And I was like, okay, yes, this is day one. I wonder what the truth is, Then I started meeting people, I started engaging with people, I started observing, and I was very surprised that it wasn't me getting special treatment, this just was the treatment. This is how we treat each other. And I think that there is the difference. Now, I think the difference here is, yes, I know that this job is hard. I know I've got work to do. No one's pretending that there's not problems to fix and there's directions to go in. But the difference is I feel wanted, I feel welcome, I feel at home. Now I actually want to come to work. I want to be part of this team. And that's the difference. It's that excitement. It's not just a job. I actually want to be part of this. And I think that's the difference between culture and a job, or just coming into an environment and feeling like you're part of an environment. True to my heritage, there's an old Irish proverb that says, a good laugh and a long sleep, they're the best cures for pretty much everything. And I can relate that to culture, because just as laughter and sleep are vital for your mental or your physical health, an inclusive and a positive culture is absolutely vital for an organization's success. It's the fuel that keeps us going. It's the stuff that helps us get through those tough times, those ones that you don't know you're going to come out the other end. It's that drives us through that. I also think Ubuntu, bringing it home to us a bit more. I am because we are. As we know, this all boils down to community. It's about shared success. When we embrace Ubuntu, we're saying that we're in this together. We're not just working for ourselves, we're working for each other. And that's what makes a team or a business unstoppable. It's when we start to unite and we share common values, a common vision, never mind that we're all completely different to each other. I've learned a few difficult lessons in my life. I think that the one that relates to culture is You know, in the beginning, you can be driven by, okay, but what's best for me? What's best for my career? What decisions can I make that will be good for me? You become self-absorbed, you become isolated from your peers, and suddenly all that you can achieve is what you have with your 2 hands and your 24 hours a day. That's where it ends. There's no more. When your purpose and your values lie in the greater good, so I take myself out of the picture, I make my decisions based on what's best for my team, what's best for my business, what's best for tomorrow, suddenly the magic begins, you know? It's a common direction. We start to listen to each other, we start to innovate, we start to take each other seriously, we start to try new things, we start to understand each other, we break down biases. I think that's when things become really possible. That's that discretionary effort between a job and huge success. And I can definitely say that the whole is far greater than the sum of its parts. So yes, culture is the secret sauce. But let's have a look at the ingredients we use. How do we heat it? How do we cook it? How do we taste it? How do we experience it? At Blue Label, we've tried to match the company's direction to its values. And I think that that's step one. So yes, it's a telecoms business, but it's not just that. We take calculated risks. We're innovative. We explore. We enjoy. We welcome ideas. And I think that's how it's taken from the business from its inception to where it is today. So let's look at a few of these values. I'm not going to go into all of them in detail. I can see people are hungry. The first one is accountability. So if you look at this as a value and creating a culture, accountability says, okay, I'm going to own what's mine, but I'm also quite willing to own what's ours. It doesn't actually matter what created the problem and who created the problem and who we can point our fingers at and who we can blame, which is what we spend 90% of our time doing, is how can I protect myself or how can I save my own reputation? None of that matters. What matters is that I'm actually accountable for what we do now. How am I going to react to this? How am I going to fix it? How am I going to take it forward in a positive way? Then there's obviously collaboration. If we work together, we're going to get a better answer. If we embrace diversity, we're going to get better innovation and ideas. I think it goes without saying that more heads are better, and especially if they're very different heads. If you get very different cultures, races, religions, everything in one room, I mean, mathematically, I think it's proven that the answer will probably be better. Inclusion. This is a big one. Every single voice matters. In South Africa, we've got the incredible diversity, and we're so fortunate to have this in our country. Now, when we bring it back to the workplace, it's not just about all of that, it's also about equality. So we've got race, we've got gender, we've got belief, but we've also got hierarchy. One thing that I have noticed at Blue Label is the door is always open. So from your CEO to your learner, we don't know where the idea is going to come from. We don't know where the next great thing is going to come from. And the only way we're going to be able to capitalize on that is if we start listening, if we start including, if we start allowing people to share. I'll never forget a story I read. It was British Airways, and one of the cabin crew came up with an idea, and I'm not technical, so I probably won't explain this properly, but to descale the water pipes. And, you know, she saved a few pounds on her flight. But when they put it out around the globe into all the flight pods, it came to more than 14 million rand saving, you know. So the ideas, they can come from anywhere. They don't have to be rolled from the top down. We can get them from anybody. And the little things are what make a business great. And I think somebody this morning said it's all about consistency. And that's what it is. It's incremental changes day in and day out. Okay, then I think the other one I just wanted to mention was innovation. So we're always looking for new ways to do things. But innovation isn't just about, wow, this is an idea, let's do it. Innovation is about, okay, we're going to get 9 bad ones before we're going to get a good one. So it's about grit, it's about tenacity, it's about coming to work and showing up every day. And culture provides that. If I want to show up to work every day, then I will. If I don't want to, I'll plod in and I'll do my job and I'll go home, and I'm not really interested in the future. And I think that culture enables all of that to happen. So what I'm trying to say is that your values obviously need to align to your business goals. If you don't have that, then you've got a very disconnected workforce as opposed to the promises that you're making to your shareholders. And something I've learned is over a few organizations and a few lessons is, yes, we can plaster our values all over the place. We can talk about them on LinkedIn every single day. We can go on about them at year-end functions. But are we living them? How do we make them actually come alive? And there's that peer management and recognition. The second one, probably the most important, walk the talk. If your leaders at the top are not practicing the values and the culture that we're telling everyone we have, we're dead in the water. I think there's a lot of, from reading in the papers or on the news or in the radio, short-term decision-making versus long-term sustainability. It's very easy for all of us, we're all human, to say, oh God, okay, I'm not meeting my targets, I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z, but it's very against my culture. It's not something that my values are subscribing to. What am I going to do? Am I going to save myself and get my bonus? Or am I going to do the right thing and drive tomorrow's success? And this is where it gets hard. It's not about the days that we're all doing well and we're flying. It's about those difficult times when things are hard. How do we behave in those moments? And I think that's what builds the trust. And that's what then ultimately builds an unstoppable culture. Then again, incorporate your values and your culture into everything you do. So you've got to have your attraction process, your recruitment process, your performance management, your recognition, your reward. Everything needs to be woven into the fabric of all of your human processes, because it needs to be genuine. You can't have some things, okay, this one in culture is important because it's not that important. But this one, it's about numbers. It's got to be woven into everything. It's got to be real. It's got to be true. It's got to be believed. And a culture cannot possibly come alive if the trust doesn't exist. And trust comes from consistency. If I know what to expect every day, I'll start to trust the process. Then I'll become part of the process. And then I'll become an advocate for the process. And then, of course, celebrating successes. So if I'm going to tell you that this is what I want, I've got to say thank you when you give it to me. I've got to reinforce it by rewarding and recognizing the right behaviors, the right value, the right culture. It's not just about the numbers. We've got to reinforce the behaviors that are going to skyrocket us tomorrow. And finally, listen. It's something we don't always do very well. We're waiting to speak. And not just listen, but also act on what you're hearing. So we all, as HR professionals, know how many surveys we like to do. And we're listening, but then we forget to actually do something about it. We ask a million questions, and then maybe we'll fix one of them. The next year, I'm not going to bother to answer this thing because no one's doing anything about it. I'm not actually going to tell the truth this year because I'm not very trusting of this process anymore. So it's about actually hearing and actually doing something about it. It's far better not to ask questions if you don't intend on acting. Just keep quiet. But if you want to know the answer, you've got to be prepared to hear the answer and to do something about the answer. And I think that's where this important point comes in, which is feedback. Feedback is a difficult subject. It's hard to take it and it's hard to give it. If we are denying feedback, I know people have given me feedback and I'm like, oh, no, that's not true. It's actually because it is true that I don't want to look at it. I was just speaking to my colleagues just now. You can say 5 things to me, 5 fairly negative feedback things to me, and one of them will hit my heart. And I know now that's the one that's true. That's the one I've got to work on, you know? And you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to develop if you're not able to maturely accept that feedback. And probably just as hard as taking it is giving it. It's so hard to have that difficult conversation. It's so hard to say, you know, you can do this a bit differently, or how about that? Because you don't want conflict. You don't want to create that conflict with you and your colleagues or someone you don't even know. But now you're robbing them of the opportunity. You're robbing the business of the opportunity to grow. So I think that being able to give and receive feedback is an enormous enabler of culture and ultimately of high performance. But what's our role as HR in all of this? I mean, we're expecting everybody to do it. We're writing processes, we're writing policies, but how can we drive it? I like to think of us as we're the guardians of culture. You know, we don't own it, we shape it. We're the guardians. We're the ones who are watching and learning and listening and adjusting and changing it. And that's really our role. And there's loads of ways to do this. Just very briefly, I think just to mention a few is, you know, the onboarding. Have onboarding with a little bit of a twist. Immerse our people in our culture from day one. Tell them who you are. A lot of the talent that we attract them, what ours are. And then you've got this pot of many different cultures and confusion. And now we're all not aligned and we're not swimming in the same direction. So it's important to actually say this is who we are as a business. And give people the opportunity to choose, but also give people the safety to know that, you know, this is acceptable and this isn't. This is what we reward and this is what we don't reward. It's how we treat each other. It's the boundaries we set. It's how we recognize each other. It's critical. Obviously, ongoing learning, like I've said before, repetition, teaching people, what are our values, how do we drive performance? Listening, I think I mentioned that before. We've got to listen. If we don't listen as HR professionals and if we don't direct the listening as the business, we're never going to get anywhere. There's so many powerful ideas in all of our people. Are they confident enough to speak to us? And are we willing enough to listen to them? Then this one I love is shared stories. I mean, I remember my mom used to tell me hundreds of these Irish stories of the antics they used to get up to. And it wasn't just stories. It wasn't us just laughing over a Guinness. It was not that. What it really was is passing down a heritage, passing down a culture. So if we share our stories, we share our successes, we share what each other's done. Somebody's done something beautiful. Somebody's done something for the greater good. We write about it, we tell people about it, and this then infiltrates the fiber of who we are, and it drives that culture further and further. So storytelling, sharing successes is absolutely key. I think, lastly, what I would think is, if you get your culture right, the high performance, it'll take care of itself. Get your people feeling right. Get your people feeling welcome. Get them feeling valued. Get them aligned. The rest will take care of itself. It is, in fact, the enabler. Just to touch on, and I don't want to go into too much on the world of tech and AI. And we all petrified, like, oh my God, it's going to take jobs away. How am I going to deal with this? It's a whole new complexity. It's there, I mean, it fosters innovation, it fosters culture, it enhances decision-making. But it's not what will determine the success of anything, it's the culture. It's the culture that will determine how we integrate the AI and the tech. You know, how do we adopt it? It will determine that. It can only work if we buy into it, if we feel safe, if we don't feel threatened, and it's the culture that will provide that psychological safety for us to actually embrace it and reach new limits within it. And I think that it's incredibly important that AI is a tool that supports our culture. It's not something that replaces it. So we use it to support who we are and what we do, maybe remove administrative tasks, help decision making. But it doesn't replace us as humans. It doesn't replace our culture, our values, our beliefs. We bring it in. It doesn't come and take us out. In summary, I think in closing, it's obvious culture is not a nice to have, it's a must to have. There's many organizations, there's a lot of proof that I think we've all heard that culture is probably the most important enabler for a high-performing organization. It's what aligns us, it's what drives us, it helps us achieve great things together. If we nurture our culture, like we nurture our beliefs, our values, our religion, our children, if we nurture it and we take care of it like that, and we allow each other to have failures, we allow each other to fall, we say, it's okay, this is how we learned how to walk. None of us would be standing upright if we didn't fall 100 times. If we allow that kind of culture, it's okay to take calculated risks, to take some chance, to fail. It's okay. Let's just stand up and get at it again. If we allow this kind of thinking and this kind of embracive, innovative, diverse culture, I think success is probably inevitable. I think I'll leave it with that. Thank you very much for your time.